Right there in the back.
What can we as an individual specifically do to help stop
We can
this?
stand up.
Yeah.
What can we do as an individual specifically to stop this from continuing on?
I think the first thing you should do is really, I mean, the entities that really got you involved with this were the governor's offices and the commissioners, but really the state boards of education. I mean, in some states, some legislatures have passed bills, but most of them have not. And that's what I would really do, is I would make your concerns known to the governor, to the commissioner of education, and the state board of education. I mean, in some respects, what's going on with this, and the way in which the state legislators have been bypassed, systematically bypassed, is that it's a kind of revolt of the clerks. The reality of this is that these folks don't have, they've assumed a lot of authorities that they don't have, whether it's the people at the U.S. Department of Education or whether it's the folks that run your State Department of Education. They've begun to assume authorities really around their elected officials who in many instances pay for it. So that's what I would encourage you to do, is I'd make your grievances known to the State Board of Ed.
I'd like to make an alternative to this, because some of those people are hard to find and hard to reach. I think that the bypass people are the people that have no on-the-record commitment. They didn't make the mistake of doing this. Now, you may have a new governor, or you may have a new Board of Education, or new state commissioner or state superintendent, and that person might be open. But certainly, it's hard for somebody in politics to say, gosh, I was completely wrong. What a silly thing I did. So you either have to say, well, things have changed, like we've now discovered we have these millions and millions of dollars of costs, and there's no money in the budget for it. Or you have to say, we now really know what's in it. We passed Obamacare to find out what was in it. And, so we need to reevaluate. But you can go to the legislature. You can go to your member of Congress. You can go to some of these people who have been bypassed. The previous times that they've tried at the federal level to get involved in national standards, they had, like the national history standards back at the beginning of Bush 41, George H.W. Bush, lost in the U.S. Senate 99-1. I mean, there have been plenty of previous attempts at this sort of thing. Go to where you think you can have leverage.
And I'd actually add one more too. So there's a woman here named Heidi Sampson who's on the Board of Education in Maine. So you have an example right here in New England, right here, neighbors to the north, who have started an initiative petition. They've decided to put their resistance to Common Core on the ballot. And not surprisingly, a week later, the governor issued an executive order saying, oh, we're not going to do the data. We're going to start to back off some of these federal entanglements around Common Core, and was immediately thrown on the defensive. So if you don't want to go to your Board of Education, your governor, you have an initiative petition process. I'm not sure what the deadlines are, but I would talk with Heidi Sampson. She'll put her hand up there and she'll tell you how to do it.
But I would also say with the legislature, I agree completely with going to the legislature and leaning on them as hard as you can lean on them. Find out who are the members of the Education Committee. Call them. I know we had a senator in Georgia who told us if 5 people call my office, I know it's a huge issue. And he said, and if 3 people show up in my office, I know I had better sit down and listen to these people. So it doesn't take much, especially in a small state, or relatively, and this is in Georgia, which is a big state. So you have a lot of power.
This gentleman has a petition here tonight with him. If people in New Hampshire.
Could I also add, for the sake of anyone who might be a parent with children in the schools, I can say that it is effective if you find things that your children are bringing home, lessons or readings that you think are inappropriate for whatever reason, bring it to the attention. It's your parade.
Anne-Marie.
Send them to me.
Oh, send them to Anne-Marie. I'm sorry. But let someone...
Right, I want your information. Through the Cornerstone website, you can reach me. I will email.
If you go to our staff page, it's www.nhcornerstone.org. You can find all of our staff members on there with their emails. So
we do have an online petition against.
And it's actually in the brochure as well if you want to.
So there's an online
on the back.
petition.
Oh, there are some more in the hallway too, but Representative Cormier.
Thank you very much. I just
just want to let you know that a very tiny little town called Alton, New Hampshire last night voted together for 8 months, and we put the grind on, and our school board voted Common Core out. Of course, we don't know what that means, but we're going to forge ahead and find out. I have a very specific question that I've been sort of the designated communicator. I've been talking to press, I've been talking to parents, I talk to anyone I can. And you know what? There's been one argument that's been given by media where I swear they must get the same talking points like all over the country, which I'm not sure how, and I think it's an important one that that isn't talked about enough, but they always come out when you try to debate with them that the United States has such a poor record of where we stand in the world, and that's why, and this is where they get some push on their argument, that's why we need this nationalized standard, because we're failing amongst the other nations, and there's nothing that we can do about it except go into this, you know, this Common Core bad dream.
So I tried to address that. Because,
You did.
Yeah, because as I said, the countries that are doing better than us have national standards, and also the countries that are doing worse. And so, you know, you could say that if we have national standards, we'll do worse. Like there's no reason to believe that if we had Washington, D.C. guiding us, that we would definitely be better off. And that is, in fact, the view of the founders, the framers of the Constitution, was that we would be more energetic, we would be more involved if we had this competitive federalism that I outlined in my talk.
You could also answer, and I have said this to several people, that the federal government has about the worst record of any branch of government effective in education, and that the last effective law ever passed that I could recall, from my knowledge of history, was the Land Grant Act of 1862. And that was it. And if they can name anything since then that has improved academic achievement, let them tell you.
The Woodrow Wilson administration put forth a national plan for education that no black should get an academic education. Okay? In the Sputnik era, they had new math. Well, all the textbook publishers in the country had this new math plan in the early 1960s, so Sputnik's 58. And so it was a disaster. This had different number systems than the base 10. This had high degree of formalism. I don't really want to waste your time explaining the whole thing. There's a very fun satire song by Tom Lehrer that's on the web called The New Math. That'll give you an idea of what it is. And it's coming back again. It's the same stuff. And within a few years it collapsed, okay? The Clinton people tried it twice. By the time their goals 2000 thing, they got 48 states, even more than the Common Core. In a few years, completely collapsed. The tests for the national tests were given to me. I mentioned the national history standards. This is not the first time. And let's not make it the last time.
So I think one thing that's also important to recognize is that the Governors Association, the Council of Chief State School Officers, Achieve Inc., which is they control the park testing consortium. Mark Tucker, who I think is actually coming to speak up in New Hampshire in another week or so.
Pick up the page in the back.
The reality is that none of these people over the last 25 or 30 years can point to one school or one state or one city where they've actually improved student achievement. So they are very good at articulating a lot of symptoms of educational decline. There's no question they're good at that. But that's actually the easy part. The easy part is doing the hard part is doing the kind of things that Sandy Stotsky did in the State Department of Education in Massachusetts, which is developing really high quality standards in a public and transparent way and having them correlate with historic gains on national and international.
That's right.
That's the hard thing.
It's called the Massachusetts miracle, but it wasn't a miracle. It was hard work, carefully coordinated, bringing all the pieces together.
Which our state should be doing under Governor Casson. And that's where we need to take this back to. Why isn't our state doing what they did? That's the question that you asked back to them.
Okay.
Crop TV.